We the people here decree we've the right to life and liberty. We're all created equally in America, and we're going to live here happily in America. Our founding fathers crossed the seas and built the new world colonies, but King George wouldn't set them free, so they fought a...
Hi, my name's Diane. You're currently watching the Just Kidding Around show. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm so excited about today's show. I have a very special guest. His name is Julian. Hi, Jerry.
Diane.
Thanks so much for joining us. Before we get started, can we look in the camera and give a couple of shout outs to people that are special to us?
I'm going to say hello to my two grandsons in Sunnyvale, California. Drew is 14 months and Alex, as he tells me, is 4 years and 3/4. So hello to them.
Yes, and hi to all the kids at Lydia Hawk and at South Bay Elementary, and a big shout out to Mr. Feeney. He's been watching my shows for a lot of years, more than 15. So, Jerry, it's so fun to have you here. I'm used to having you behind the camera. Jerry's been a cameraman on this show for about maybe 10 years or so.
Something like that?
Yeah, so I'm not used to seeing you so well lit.
Oh.
You're kind of glowing because you're on this side of the camera. So thank you so much. Jerry has a lot of talents, and he was kind enough to step up, and he's going to share one of his talents or hobbies with us today, and it has to do with these boats.
Thank you. A little bit of history first. Let's take a look at the one on the left-hand side. And each of the models that I build has a little bit of history behind it. Sam Devlin, who owns Devlin Boats in Olympia here, has been building a stitch and glue type boat for 35 or 40 years.
Back up, what kind of boat?
Stitch and glue.
Okay, is that the name for the style?
It's a style of building, and one of these days we'll do a small boat and we can put it together here on the show so you can get an idea what that's like. But anyway, I always wanted to build one of his models, and so I stopped by the shop one day and I talked to him, and he said, I have a brand new one he just designed, and it's called Dipper 19. It's a 19-footer, outboard powered, and I took a look at the drawings and I said, yes, that's the one I want to build. So
you buy drawings and then you cut this out yourself? You don't buy little pieces to put together?
It's what we call scratch built.
And
I used his plans and modified them a little bit for building the model. And from that, then build up the model. It took about 3.5 months, I think.
So 3.5 months of how many hours did it take?
Probably around 100, maybe 110.
100 hours. And does this actually work? If I were to put in water, is it radio controlled?
Yes, it's radio controlled. It has a little outboard on the back.
Back here.
And it's radio controlled, so you could put it in the water. And we're interested in seeing how it runs because this is a model of a prototype that he would like to build. He has one called the Dipper 16, which is a 16-footer. And people want something a little bit longer, so that's why we decided to build the model of a 19.
So this boat hasn't really been built yet?
As far as I know, no.
The full sail?
The full-size one.
Full-size boat. Because usually, isn't it the reverse? Don't you usually make models after the full-size boats?
For the most part of the builders, they build the models first, or have a model built. Yeah.
And then they decide, do I really want to make a boat like this? Wow. So do the doors open, and does this open?
Not on this one. That hatch does come off. It just lifts off, and so you can get to the inside with the radio. Right. Yeah, that one's more or less kind of a operating static model.
Yeah, that's a great shot they have on the screen right now.
It has the windows that are obscured a little bit, so you can't see inside. So I didn't do any interior details on this. But sometimes they will build the models and actually do the interiors, so the prospective buyer to the boat would have an idea what it would look like.
Yeah. So this would be a boat 19 foot, so they wouldn't necessarily live on.
Probably not.
Something like this. It'd be a vacation.
You might weekend it, or as they say, gunk hole, go out to these various little eddies and little byways on the southern part of the Puget Sound here, and maybe spend a weekend.
Because you couldn't go skiing in something about like
probably
this,
not. This
Yeah.
is more for just traveling and that sort of thing. Maybe fishing from it. And
So you made this, and then did you use, what kind of material did you use for this? Is this wood or?
this is all made from aircraft grade model plywood.
Oh,
And it's
plywood.
1/16 of an inch thick, and it's multi-plied.
Okay.
And so we took the original plans of his boat, blued up to 1.5 inch scale. So 1.5 inches equals 12 inches, and then cut all the frames. In his designs, the actual side panels, you can see them there, the actual side panels on the bottom are already drawn. So you just basically cut them out and wire them together and glue them on the inside.
Yeah. Wow. And then you test it to make sure it doesn't leak too.
Right. It's epoxied on the inside, and so
Epoxy.
yeah, we want to keep the water out of most of these.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. Sounds like a good idea. So you just start with a big sheet of plywood, and
you
what tools do you actually use to cut?
I use basically a bandsaw,
This
but
is
I have a
bandsaw.
full shop at home, so I can do just about anything that I want.
And what if somebody wanted to start a hobby like this? Is there a local club that they could join, or
Well, a lot of times we're down at the lake and just running, and just come over and talk to us.
the lake?
Yeah.
You can run these in the lake?
Right. And we run it out to
Which lake?
St. Clair Lake, the lake down here behind the dam at Olympia here.
Okay, because
I try to run them basically in fresh water.
because I originally met you years and years
Yeah.
ago at Lake Fair when we used to be able to go down to Capitol Lake,
Right.
and you were running your boats down there. Now, how many boats have you made?
Oh, I think about 46.
46.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's talk a little bit about this one.
Yeah.
This has got an interesting history too. We, along with some friends of ours, took a cruise from New York to Quebec about 1.5 years ago, and went up the eastern seaboard up there, and we got up to Bahaba, as they call it, and I got enthralled with all these lobster boats, and I happened to have a fiberglass hull at home. That was a basic hull, and so I took a lot of pictures up there and talked to the lobster boat people, and when I excuse me, when I came back, I decided, well, it's time to dig this thing out and build a model. So this
So
is
that's a model of a lobster
right.
boat,
Yes.
rather than a recreational.
Right.
And,
This is actually a commercial working boat.
and what is the scale on that one?
This is, I think, about 1.25, 1.5. That's a 40-foot boat. So
Oh, that's the
Yeah.
original. So that's sort of the reverse of this.
right.
That boat really does, a 40-foot
Yeah.
boat of that really does exist.
And most of these
And you
now,
made this to
yeah.
scale. And that's fiberglass, but this one was
Right.
made out of plywood.
The basic hull and the superstructure was fiberglass, and then I had to cut all the windows out, and then there's some pictures on the other side that shows the inside, because I detailed the inside on this one.
Yeah.
And I built so many of them that way, I'm getting to the point where I don't want to spend that much time on the inside.
Yeah.
But anyway,
And
this
these-
is
but the-
radio controlled too.
Yeah, and so this really, you can put in water and play
Run
around. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's interesting because the real boats, they have high horsepower. I mean, they have from 250 to 400 horsepower Cat turbocharged engines in these things. And they actually race some of these back on the East Coast.
Oh,
they have what they
really?
call
The
lobster
full-size
boat.
models, or
full-size boat.
the full-size boats
Yes.
they race, sort of like our tugboat races.
And
huh?
some of the guys are running, 500, 600 horsepower motors in there. So,
Wow.
but yeah, it's been interesting. And what do you do when you get them built? I think they'll end up in a museum someplace or just get rid of them.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Anyway.
Now, the parts on this really do move, like the doors open
Right.
and
the doors in the back here, they slide.
it opens. And what
And
is,
the side over here, this thing flips up, and normally if the seat's not in the way, it goes up on the real boat. It goes up and locks into the upper house up here, and then that allows freedom on the other side. They've got a pot puller on the other side for pulling up the lobster pots.
oh, to pull up the pots. And then there's what are the ropes over there for?
Which ones are those?
On the other side, before we sat down, aren't there some ropes?
No?
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of another boat.
I think that's Jim.
That's Jim's
we
boat.
probably should take a couple minutes and get his up
yeah,
here.
but not, yeah. So what are the white, are those?
These are tubs, and that's when they get the lobsters. They pull them up, they sort them out, and they put them in these little tubs.
So is it similar to a crab? A crab boat?
Yes, similar to a crab boat out here, but we don't have too many lobster out in the West Coast.
Right. Are crab
East
boats
Coast.
about 40 feet too?
Some of them are bigger than that, especially the ones that operate up in the Bering Sea,
yeah.
the big commercial crab boats.
So this would, can you hold up one of those? Are those separate?
Yeah, these are just little condiment.
Oh, okay. But that is what?
That would be the tubs that they would...
That is similar to what a lobster
Right.
tub would look like, but
As
they
they
pull it
wash 'em-
down
yeah,
on
they
the
wash
other
'em
side?
Here. They wash them here, sort them out, put them in tubs, and then when they get back to the dock, they lift them out. And
Okay. How exciting. And did you actually ride on a reel, or you just saw them up there?
I just saw them and had a chance to talk to some of
Okay.
them. We were only there for a day, but we stopped about 3 different places that had lobster boats. So.
And then you take lots of pictures and then come
Yes,
home.
and use that for details.
And are some of these boats on the internet?
Oh, yes.
The
Yes.
original
The original
ones.
boats, yes.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I decided to call mine Trapped because, that's what happens to the lobster when he gets inside
The poor lobster
Yeah.
trapped. Yeah. Wow. Well, thanks for sharing this talent. I'm sure we could talk a long time, but I think we're going to share another boat now.
Yes, we're gonna-
Is that right?
Jim Elder.
How are we going to do that? May I hold your mic, and then does this boat stay here, and then we just
gonna
exchange those two
Take
boats?
these 2 off.
Well, thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
It's been great. Thank you very much for sharing that. For those of you just tuning in, you're watching the Just Kidding Around show, and Jerry Julian has just shared 2 of his radio-controlled boats that he made from scratch, both of the boats. He didn't buy a kit. He bought a plan for one, and he developed the plan for the other. And now, I'm going to take my watch back. Wow. Got it. Well, that was a quick exchange. Here's your microphone.
right,
Can
get
you
it
get
clipped
mic'd
on
up?
me.
So this is Jim Elder. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Diane and everybody else.
Do you want to say hi in the camera to somebody?
Hi to all my modeling buddies.
You got a lot of modeling
all my grandnephews and nieces are in Montana. So
Oh, yeah. So just those modeling. But are you in a modeling club of some kind?
yes, but it's a model train club. That's what we're looking at here is actually going to be part of a display of a model builder in Tacoma, his personal residence. And
Oh, you're kidding.
this is an O-scale boat.
So you were commissioned to make this
Yes,
for a
I'm-
private party
Yes.
that actually owns a boat that looks exactly like this.
Well, he doesn't own the boat. Here's the story. I'll tell you the
Oh.
story. Yeah. I was asked to do this, and it took about a month to convince me to do this. This is a scratch-built boat, and he has an O-scale layout that occupies 60 by 40-foot area in his house. It is a spectacular place.
Oh my goodness.
But he is doing the Tacoma industrial area, about 1950 or so, and he wanted this boat there because it did historically actually
Exist?
did operate out of Tacoma,
Oh.
and it is sat in front of the Sperry flour mill. There's a granary right there right now that unloads grain to be shipped elsewhere.
Down by the
It's-
Thea docks? or
Right
what it's
down by the
called?
Thea Foss Waterway.
Thea Foss Waterway,
But before then, there was a Sperry mill, and they actually ground the flour.
Oh,
and they
really?
delivered it, and then they bagged it up in a couple 100-pound bags, and they put it in the holds of the ship. And that's what this represents right here. You see there on the
That's the
net,
flour?
It's
Is this
holding,
the
it's
flour?
holding sacks of flour, and
Oh
there's
my
sacks of flour
gosh.
down the hole. And the story about the ship is this ship was actually built in Toledo, Ohio, and it ran on the Great Lakes for quite a few years. But then Schaefer Shipping out here in San Francisco bought it and operated on the West Coast.
And there was only one of these boats. It wasn't a whole fleet.
Well, there were a number of boats built in Toledo, the
Okay.
same configuration, you know,
Okay.
like the Liberty ships were built in World War
So when you
II.
say this boat was
Yeah,
built, there were
yeah,
several of
yeah.
this
Same
same plan,
style,
same style. Okay.
But anyway, when it made it on the West Coast, you know, it did operate in, besides Tacoma, it was in Grays Harbor at times.
Okay.
And the owner, the person who requested this boat to be built, had a specific name he wanted to put on it, and I was thinking, oh yeah, it's one of the Schaefer boats because they occupied the same last name. But it really wasn't. This was a third party, and it confused me a little bit because you notice on the name of the boat it says S.R. and Schaefer.
Schaefer,
It
yeah.
had nothing to do with the shipping line. That person was a philanthropist down in the Aberdeen area, and she was a nun. And that's what the SR is all about, I finally figured out. I thought,
Oh,
wait a minute, now don't you mean
funny.
SS? Because that was
Yeah.
standard steamship designation, you know.
Yeah.
There's no SR. And then he explained it all to me, and it turned out to be a nun who was a philanthropist.
Is that right?
But anyway, when I started these, this is scratch built, so he had some plans, some basically, you know, the shapes of things, and none of the frames or design, you know, interior design, it wasn't really needed. And from then I scaled it up to this scale, which is O scale, which means 1 foot is equal to 48 feet. So this boat is about 250 feet long.
the original is
Yeah.
250
Yeah.
feet long.
But when you scale it to O
Okay.
scale, it's 1 foot equals 48 feet.
It's a good sized boat, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's small by today's standards, you know.
Yeah. So now it delivered flour from where to
Oh,
where? Where'd it go?
I don't know. Wherever they needed flour.
Up and
you
down
know.
the coast.
Yeah.
Flour up and down the coast, huh?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
But all
But
the
it's-
parts, all the parts.
Yeah.
There's all the parts have been handcrafted. There are a few of them that it wasn't worth my time. It was worth the money rather than my time. For instance, the blocks that you see on here, they're made of metal. You can purchase those, and a couple of the bollards that you can see down inside here there. But most everything else is made of wood or metal or or vinyl or whatever material.
And you
is
cut this
necessary.
all yourself. So
Yes.
I'm interested too in all the textures that I see.
Yes.
How did you come up with the netting for
Well,
this
the
flower?
netting, yes, that's something
that?
I went over to Joann's fabric store and roamed around their bolts of cloth until I came up with something that worked good and cut it out and shaped it. And
So you search for a lot of these things, and
Oh,
this
yeah.
looks like some kind of a leather imitation on that lifeboat.
Yes, it is. This is just, again, out of Joann, just some real light texturing, like veil texturing.
Yeah.
And then you put gesso over the top of it to fill in the pores, and then you paint it.
Yeah.
And these boats are actually wood blocks that have been carved. And these little
You
things
carved
are,
those
oh, yeah,
boats?
Yes. And these little ventilators right here are little made of a casting material. I built one, and then I casted a mold and casted the rest of them.
Does this man know how much trouble you went to build this boat?
Yes, he does. And
You kept him posted,
yes,
huh?
I did. Yes, actually, in materials, this is not so bad. With the raw materials, about $300 worth of material. But
This
there's
is $300
yes,
worth of.
but there's a lot of labor you put in it. So you add the cost of labor on top of that. That's true of most models that architects build. The materials isn't the
$300?
expensive part; it's the labor that's
See,
the
now I would have
expensive
said
part.
$50.
Oh.
That's what I know. Is this radio controlled too?
No, this is strictly a display model, and just to look pretty. Yeah, and it'll be part of his display. And I forgot to put something up here. Old glory here. I had to find out. This ship was built in the era of 48.
48 stars, so you had to get a
48
flag with
stars.
48 stars?
I just lost my mic. Let me put it back
Oh,
on
stick
here.
it back on there. You might be on my mic.
Yes, well, this is a 48-star era, so I had to find a flag and print it out on paper and develop the flag too. So, and then there's the radio, old radios that they had at the time, and the booms are arranged as if they were going to drop something over the side. There'll be a dock all along the edge there with a flour mill in the
The dock on
background.
that side.
Right, yeah.
And these little lifeboats you said were hand
Yes, they're
carved?
carved out of what's called basswood, which is a nice soft wood with its tight grain, so it's good for carving. You get a nice finish on it. But yes, it's less time consuming than you think when you have a process down. You start by making a profile gauge first, then carve. And I could carve one of them out in about an hour and a half or so.
Really? I'm surprised.
But the hard part were the little winches right here. They were a combination of styrene plastic and some model gears that I found in my collection, and I duplicated them just like I did the ventilators.
Yeah.
I made a mold and then cast more of them out.
So you actually made those yourself.
And
what is this?
what is that? That is more of those. Only I didn't want to
covered?
make 6 more of them, so I cheated. I made it a canvas cover, and so they're
Funny.
hollow underneath.
Smart thinking. So that's what's back
That's all.
there
They're
too.
all hollow, but they're representing a
Okay.
canvas cover.
And then
with
does
the
this
winches.
have something to do with the anchor? Or
That's what
something?
that's what holds. That's
Do
the
those
anchor
move?
windlass. No, not necessarily.
Okay.
No, not one like perhaps Jerry's models. You might make one that moves, but it's not necessary on a static model.
So are you well known for making models?
Just in the local area, yeah.
You
in the
you must be
Puget
for
Sound
somebody
area,
to call you and ask you to.
Well, that's because I'm
make
also
a-
interested in model railroading,
Uh-huh.
and I knew, and I have a number of friends that knew that I did build boats, and so one person I was telling you about is interested in this subject, and
Yeah.
he finally convinced me to do it. So here it is.
Looks like a lot of work. Has he seen this yet?
Parts of it. I send him a picture now and then. He says, "Yeah, I'm getting more excited." That's fine with me. That must mean I have a happy client.
Yeah. So when are you going to deliver it to him?
Probably he's still building his layout, so he's not quite ready. He sent me a picture the other day that shows the framework, so he's a long way from ready to receive it. But
So is he making the flour mill or something?
he's going to make the flour mill and the docks and all the train facility and all the electrical that's required to run the trains.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it's going to be in his home.
Yes, it's like I said, he has a great big area.
So in a
it's
way-
bigger than this whole studio. So I've been able to, so.
Does he have kids or a wife?
They're all, yes, he has a wife, and his wife likes horses too. So
Thinking, wow, what a
Yeah,
hobby. What a hobby. That's a large scale hobby, I think.
well, building these things, half the challenge is finding shapes and materials that will do the work for you. They may not have anything to do with a model. I've been over to Shipwreck Beads a number of times, and there are all kinds of little novelties there that work great on models. It doesn't have to be a static model, too.
Yeah.
Jerry and I actually build the radio control models that use dress hooks and things like that.
Oh my goodness. So now, how old were you when you became interested in making model things?
Oh, about 6 years old, I think.
Seriously?
Yes, and that was the era when you had a model kit, and it was a block of wood, and you had to know how to carve it out. You learned how to
That's
carve
how
it out.
model kits started?
That's it. There were no plastic models to speak of.
Oh,
If there were some
goodness.
plastic, they were very crude,
Yeah. So they say you bought a model kit and there was a chunk of wood in it and they just said carve?
Yeah, well, they give you a plan and say it's shaped like this and you carved like this, minimum amount of instruction. But I think that's something that the
But it
people
is,
nowadays miss, the young people nowadays,
Yeah.
how to do, I played in the dirt and dug, made castles and roads and all that thing
and
as
that
a
kind
kid.
of all led to this
you
hobby
just
of
have
yours.
it, yeah.
No,
you
kids nowadays, they just play video games.
Well, but frankly, they know more about those than I do.
Well,
but that's not,
Yeah, but does that really take all, that doesn't take higher level thinking skills like something like this would. This takes
yeah.
a lot of problem solving and,
yes, well, I've been doing it for
ingenuity.
50 years now, so 50 years worth. So,
Yeah.
you develop some skills in that time.
See,
period.
when I was a kid, models were these plastic. You bought these kits, and there were plastic parts, and you kind of broke them off and
Yeah.
glued them together, and you were done.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it didn't work that way with this. You had to make your parts.
No, that's right. And
Goodness, and-
that's half the fun. Both Jerry and I enjoy at least 60% of this type of hobby is the joy of building the thing. The other
Oh, my
20% or
goodness.
40% might be running it or
Running it,
displaying
yeah.
it.
But this one's static.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm being told that we need to wrap it up.
Oh, okay.
So I neglected to say that this is Jim Elder. I'm sorry I didn't introduce you. And Jim has been running camera on the show for years, too. So, I'm so fortunate to be working with such talented people. And John's very talented, too, but he's still hiding behind the camera. And it's fun to have you on this side of the camera.
Yes, I enjoy it every once in a while.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing this masterpiece with us. And thanks to Jerry. Thank you, Tom Dubuque, who's in the control room. Thanks, John Amos. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Jim Elder. And tune in again sometime to the Just Kidding Around show. We're on every Saturday and Sunday. Thank you.
And
bye, Mr. Feeney.
And thank you to you,
Well,
Diane.
yeah, well, it was, you guys are.
We the people here decree we've the right to life and liberty. We're all created equally in America, and we're going to live here happily in America. Our founding fathers crossed the seas and built the new world colonies. But King George wouldn't set them free, so they fought a revolution, the American Revolution. Oh, we the people here decree we've the right to life and liberty. We're all created